Bryan Caplan, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
To see you too, Vatsal.
I wanted to talk about meta ethics and specifically ethical intuitionism. But let me begin with a question on common sense realism. What is the material difference between common sense realism and someone who is more skeptical, like Hume, if they make the same predictions about the world?
I would start by saying that even to go and claim that someone is making predictions, you really are talking about a prediction about what really happens. If you follow Hume strictly, then you've also got no knowledge that anyone else in the world even exists. So all you're really doing is making predictions about your own experience, not what really happens. And if you remember what Hume says about memory knowledge, you're not even doing that because you don't actually have reliable memory knowledge. You may say, oh, this is exactly what I predicted. Well, how do you know that what you predicted is in fact what you think that you predicted? It could just as well be that the universe just burst into existence this very second with false memories that you previously existed. I would say it is the difference between a normal view of the world and a totally bizarre one.
Would you say that your opposition to skepticism is consequentialist, like you are worried that it will lead to bad outcomes?
No, I just think it's false. It's true. So if one were in fact actually sincerely skeptical, then it would definitely make sense to change your behavior in the same way it makes sense to act differently in a dream than in reality. If you knew for sure you were in a dream and you want to punch someone, why not punch someone in the dream? They're not real. You're not hurting anybody. On the other hand, if you know that it's a real person, then it does change what would be proper behavior, of course. And then if you're in the position of, well, I don't know if it's a dream or not, it's like, well, if it's like a 1 in a million chance it's real, then yeah, sure. Why not punch the person? Who knows what, like they almost certainly are just a product of your imagination anyway.
One objection that can be raised against intuitionism is that it doesn't add anything. What problem does it solve, whether in epistemology or ethics, that couldn't be solved without it?
Hmm. What I would say is that's basically this fundamental anti-intellectualism of saying, I don't care whether anything is right or wrong, so it doesn't add anything. It's like, well, the fact that you don't care doesn't matter. It's, is it true or not? And if it's true, it adds something because it's an additional fact. And that's the whole answer. If that's not enough, if that's not enough, then what? Say, like, was Hitler really evil, or is it just society's opinion that he was evil? What difference does it make? If a person is there, then it's like, all right, look, why talk to a person like that? They're not interested in the question.
No, I meant against naturalism. So if someone says that naturalistic worldview has specific criteria like pain and pleasure, so intuitionism relies on something that is self-evident and that is in a sense vague. So the question is, does it actually add anything to say that rely on intuition rather than just naturalistic pain, pleasure, or egoism like Rand?
Well, right, as G. Moore pointed out, it is a meaningful question to ask, is pleasure good? And that's his refutation and with the whole basis of the naturalistic fallacy. It's a meaningful question. If someone just says, no, that is not true, pleasure equals good by definition, it's like, okay, you're not speaking English. And again, what's the point of continuing the conversation if you're going to be like that?
And you wrote that Ayn Rand's ethical egoism is anti-realist. Could you elaborate on that?
I honestly don't remember specifically saying that, but I think that she is presenting it as a moral realist theory, but what she winds up doing is, in terms of constructing her argument, it does come down to, okay, well, this is what living things do, and it's the nature of a living thing in order to go and pursue its nature and to seek happiness if it's a living being. And again, there is the question, all right, fine, suppose that's true. Does that show it's good? Does it show it's right? And once again, it is a meaningful question. She might actually bite the bullet and just say, in the same in the same aspy voice I was just doing, no, by definition, whatever maximizes an entity's, self-regarding happiness it's good. And it's like, okay, if you're going to be that way, I don't know what the point is of talking. You're not speaking English, and you're not going and addressing the issues that seem perfectly normal to other people, but that's where I would go with that.
Your blog post,
Yes.
it's called From Intuitionism to Contrarianism, a case study.
Okay.
And in that blog post, you discussed how employees can discriminate against employers. And you asked whether employers can also discriminate against employees the same way. And Tyler Cowen disagreed with you on this. And he's also an intuitionist. So, suppose a disagreement like this occurs between two intuitionists, how do you resolve that?
First of all, I would say Tyler isn't really into intuitionist at all. I don't really understand what he is, but he has not endorsed intuitionism as far as I know, except maybe to say, yes, well, of course, but it doesn't matter. It's like, all right, if that's, that's a strange kind of intuitionism. In terms of this meta question, if there's two people who share the same methodology but they disagree, what can they do? All right. And you might say, well, aren't you just in an impasse then? It's like, no. So, like, what is it that two people who are both empiricists can do if they disagree? Is say, well, let's go, let's review the empirical evidence more carefully. Let's go and see if there's some other evidence that haven't heard of. Similarly, if you have two intuitionists who disagree, one step is, let's go through the alleged intuitions more carefully and make sure that we even actually disagree. Second of all, it's like, so do you have any other intuitions that I might share? Uh, and I think you've been talking a lot about intuition, but unless there's some world community of intuitionists that I'm unaware of, I think that most people listening will have very little idea what we're talking about. And what I would say is my view of intuition just comes down to you've got to start somewhere with something that's obvious. And if someone disagrees with something you consider obvious, what can you do? You've got to find something that's even more obvious to them. And like, well, what if you can't? They reject the thing that you find obvious. You can't come up with anything that they find more obvious. Then you really are in an impasse. But there's nothing special about intuitionism for that. If you're an empiricist and you say, look, I say that the Rock of Gibraltar exists, and you take them there and you see there it is, and I don't see, and the other person says, I'm an empiricist, but I don't see a rock. It's like, you sure you don't see a rock? I see a rock. And it's the same kind of thing. Right. Again, you might say, well, empiricists don't disagree with each other in that way. And like, well, I know a lot of empirical researchers who do have very deep disagreements with each other. So I don't think so.
What is your main objection against naturalism, moral naturalism?
Right. So G. Moore said it very well, and I'm happy to repeat what he said. For any natural property, which allegedly is the same thing as a moral property, you can always say, yes, but is X good? If someone says that the good means pleasure, good means happiness, good means longevity, good means the survival of the community, you can say, yeah, well, but is the survival of the community good? And if you just say that is a meaningless question by definition, the answer is of course yes. Then sorry, so then the conversation's over. The person doesn't really understand English, or if the person says, interesting question, it's like, all right, well, the point of this question wasn't really even to answer that question. It was just to show that you're committing the naturalistic fallacy, and it's always a meaningful question to say, is a given descriptive situation one that possesses a certain moral property?
How do you deal with the question of motivation? Suppose someone agrees that some facts like murder is wrong is self-evident, but he lacks the motivation. In that case, what can be done?
There's a classic list of how to motivate other people. There's giving them an inspiring speech. There's, well, look at this poor little person. Like, don't you feel so, like, wouldn't it be wrong to do that? There's telling stories. There is the Stoic one of your motivations do not matter. Sophocles. All that matters is the right. Do the right. You can try all these things, and then in the end, the person says, yeah, I'm still not motivated. And it's like, all right, well, I guess you're just an immoral person. Nothing more I can do about it. Just the last thing is, hopefully you will mature over time and see the error of your ways. All right, you're left with that. So, and it's like, well, that seems pretty lame. It's like, that's life. Like, life does not give anyone the superpower of motivating other people. If someone just says, yes, I don't care whether anyone else lives or dies. And it's like, well, really? And if they're firm on that, then it's like, yeah, well, I don't see how I'm going to motivate you then.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Totally happy to do it.